Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89, your favourite horror head. Um, okay, so it's Friday the 13th, sort of. We had a Friday the 13th in October, so it was sort of special. But I watch the Friday the 13th films every Friday the 13th, and I only watch them on Friday the 13th. That way I don't overwatch them, because when I was younger as a teenager, I watched them all the time and I kind of ruined them because I watched them too much. And this way, it makes sure I only watch them once or twice a year, or how many Friday the 13th we have a year. In the last couple of years, I've only had like one. So it sort of makes you sort of anticipate it and wait for them and hang out for them and make the most of them, and then have to wait again. So that's what I do. But lately I've been trying to watch the Friday the 13th fan films, because I realised there are actually quite a few of them. And the last couple of years I've tried to go through all of them and sort of work out which are the good ones, which are the bad ones, and I'm sort of considering adding the fan films to my little marathon, because normally I start watching the films after midnight on Thursday, technically Friday the 13th. I do the first like five, and then I do the rest on the Friday the 13th evening and night, and then I sort of just spend the Saturday and Sunday sort of going through the commentaries and documentaries and special features and stuff like that. But I sort of have started watching the fan films, and I might sort of make Saturday night like the fan film night, where I watch the good ones, because there are a couple of good ones like Never Hike Alone, but there were some new ones this year that I had to look at, and I kind of regret it. I mean, one of them, there were four that I found. There was a three-part one called Friday the 13th Origin of Evil, and then there was a five-part special where they did a different sort of horror legend with each episode, and the third one was, it was called Slasherverse, and the third one was the Friday the 13th episode. And that was okay. But the Friday the 13th Origin of Evil was so bad, and so disappointing, because it looked really good. The cinematography, the visuals, it was shot really well, but the direction and the writing was woeful, and the acting, there's no acting in it. They were just so bad. And I was so disappointed, because, like I said, they looked good from a distance, and I thought, oh, this could be interesting. The Jason looked good, although it was the Jason from Friday the 13th Part 2, so I thought maybe they were doing something interesting with that story, and they really don't. Like when he has the mask off, the hood off, he doesn't really look like that Jason. He looks like the Jason from 3, but a little skinnier. But I'm like, are they trying to sort of blend the two, make a crossover, or do they just not know what he looked like in the second film with the hood off, the makeup? I don't know. But it's just bad direction for one. Like, I can understand how you sort of script like, oh, the person falls down and Jason, stabs him with a knife. But then when you're actually staging it, you can't just have the person fall down their back and just lay there while they wait for Jason to get in place and stab them, because in reality you would move, things would happen. People just don't fall down and squirm and squeal and sit there and wait to be killed. It's just not remotely realistic or scary or anything, and there's a lot of that. And there's some really bizarre, stupid moments, like there's a scenario in the second one, because the first one's pretty basic. There's a couple that gets killed, then there's a girl who's hitchhiking gets killed, no lady gets killed, and then someone else ends up killing Jason, and it's really poor at the end. Of course, he pops up and he just grabs her from behind, and he just holds her, and she just looks and screams for a few seconds, and it's supposed to be scary, and I'm like, totally didn't work. The second film, worse. There was a scene where there's two girls, they go to the camp, no one's home, they end up sleeping out in a campfire. One girl standing there, Jason comes from the frame, side of the frame, grabs her and pulls her off the screen. You're like, okay, well, she's done. Then the other girl wakes up, she's not there, she's looking for her, then Jason starts chasing her, and she's running through the forest, and there's a guy sitting there like a biker with a boombox playing blasting music, which apparently she couldn't hear, even though he was just right there. And Jason just walks straight past. He kicks the boombox, and the guy's like, hey. And it's like they're doing the scene from Jason Takes Manhattan. But in Jason Takes Manhattan, he was Evil Dead zombie, basically, a rotting corpse. So when he pulls up his mask and the kids run away, you know why they're running away, because they're like, this thing is not human. There's no fighting this. Whereas Jason 2 is just a guy with a hood on. So he lifts up the hood, and the guy like puts the chain down and walks off, and Jason just walks off, and we never see the guy again. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then when this girl's being attacked by Jason, the other girl just pops out of nowhere and starts choking him from behind with the chain that she picked up from the other guy, which wasn't even where he left it. And I'm like, well, where was she? How did he not kill her? And then she's like, leave her, he ends up on the other girl again, and she's like, leave her alone. You're beef with me, and I'm like, what beef? Did they establish anything? It just doesn't make any sense. And the very, very end is just appalling. The two girls end up outrunning Jason and getting on a boat. And instead of like rowing into the center of the lake where he can still get them because, hello, he can swim, they just sit there right on the edge of the water and they just sit there. And then Jason jumps up and pulls one of them in. I'm like, it was woeful. It was just woeful. And it's just so sad that these people had the money and the time and the means to create visually such a good short film, but to have no ability to write or direct, because the same person wrote and directed it and they were woeful. I'm not going to say their name because it's just too cruel. But yeah, so the other one, the Slasherverse one, it was better. There's some kid who's dating some girl and she's a bit of a mess, but she's trying to, calm down and date a nice guy, and they're just sort of talking and dating. It's really normal. I'm like, where's Friday the 13th coming in? They go to Camp Crystal Lake for like a little picnic, and that's when Jason suddenly stabs the guy through the back when they're talking. I'm like, oh, I thought he would have lasted a bit longer than that. She runs off. She ends up hiding in a cabin. Jason's been running around killing the counselors, so I guess they've just opened the camp up again or something. And she tries to run. She tries to escape, and she gets killed. That's sort of the end. But at least it was shot well. You sort of had some believability. And there's actually one camp counselor who actually jumps on Jason and stabs him repeatedly. And you're like, yeah, she had some fight, so it was pretty good. But it still wasn't great. But it was better than the other one. And I'd put it in I've sort of got a few categories, and there's like bad ones, good ones, and sort of mid ones. It's a mid one. It looked okay. The acting was okay, but the story wasn't that interesting. And I just sort of think, God, what would I do if I had the money and the means to make a Friday the 13th film? I'd do so much better than these guys. And yes, it's easy to say that, but when some of these are that bad, so that's the thing. I can't imagine someone not being able to make an okay film. Just to have basic logic and, realism with basically, situations and movement. That's really all you need to do an okay fan film. And this guy couldn't even get that down. It just, yeah. And the third film, each time Jason gets like hit by a woman in the back and ends up falling flat on his face and lying there, each sort of film, and it's very repetitive. Everyone seems to be driving a Beetle but different colours. And the last film is a woman sort of being stalked in a cabin. She's just like staying there. I guess she lives there. And then the other girl from the other film, because apparently she survived, the one who didn't get pulled into the water, she shows up with an archer's outfit and she like shoots Jason twice. And then he falls out of a window onto some stairs, and they look down and then they see him, again ripping off part 8 in a way, and they see him as child Jason crawling away, and then they can't find the body, and it's like, he's gone. I'm like, that kind of worked in Friday the 13th when he was being dissolved in acid in water. There was something mysterious about that worked. But this, he just falls and turns into himself when he was a kid. Because they do show footage of him, and they did some good makeup of a young Jason drowning and living in the woods, and some girl seeing him and offering him an apple and then him running away. And I'm like, God, they could have done something really interesting with that. They had the kid, they had the makeup, and all he does is just sort of sit there. Then he gets angry watching some girls playing in the water and laughing, and it makes him angry or something, and I guess he attacks people later or something that doesn't really explain anything. It's just such a missed opportunity. They had the makeup, they had the means to do a really good Friday the 13th film, and all they do is create 3 pieces of crap. And I'm sorry to say that. I hate trashing this guy. That's why I'm not mentioning the guy's name or anything more than just the name of the video. Just so you don't watch it. Do not watch this. It's awful. Don't waste your time. And that's a sad thing, that some of these movies, these fan films, are just a waste of time. They're not fun, because even if they don't have the production values, even if they're just having fun with the story and fun with just filming it themselves, that can sort of be its own thing. But it's just awful, and it's just such a tragedy, because they had the cinematographer, they had they made the Camp Crystal Lake signs and everything, and the makeup looked really good and all that, and they could have done something really good. And it's like, God, I wish I had the money to do something like that. I could do such a better job. It's not that hard to either just do a basic Friday the 13th story and just do a good job of the directing and the editing of it, and the staging of it, or you try and do something interesting like, you know, explaining what happened to him when he was a kid or something like that, and sort of exploring part of it that hasn't really been covered, in which case, even if it's not great, it's just interesting because of what it touches and deals with. But no one does this. It's just... Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Yeah, avoid these like the plague. I mean, the Slasherverse one's okay, that's fine. But, yeah, just... Hopefully we get something better next year, because we got Never Hike Alone, which was good. Had some issues, but it still ultimately had some really good moments and was good. But yeah, so hopefully, I just sort of hope each year to get something new, at least just like one like decent fan film each year is all I'm hoping for. Since we seem to be waiting forever for an actual movie. And we also have no news on Crystal Lake, which I thought we'd get on Friday the 13th. Then I realised, oh, it's not a Friday the 13th brand production, so they're not going to use Friday the 13th to promote it. So, of course not.